Welcome back, guys. It's nice to see you here again. So, we have already learned about the find method, right, in one of the previous lectures. So, right now, we are going to see one of the relative of the find method, which is find index, which works almost similar to find method. Okay, so let's get into it. So what find index does, see the way find method returns us the first element which matches the condition. If you can see my screen here in the code where I wrote few things, I already wrote that find method right in one of the previous lectures. What we were doing here, we were actually matching one condition. We have passed a callback function, and whichever element uh, passes this condition, matches this condition, the find method will return that element, the first element which matches this condition, right? So now let's talk about find index. So find index is almost similar. What it does, it basically takes a callback function, and it here we have to pass a condition, right? And whichever element matches the condition, the find index will return the index of the first element which will match the condition. Okay, so let's have a look at it. So for that, let me just copy this array so that we can save our time writing these array things. Okay, so now I'll use this find method first. Okay, just to show you like what's happening in the find method, so that we'll get a quick revision as well. Okay, so now here I'm checking, like if the element is greater than 0, then just return me that element. That is what find method does, right? So it will check, it will loop through the array, and it will find whichever element matches this condition, whichever first element matches this condition, the find method is returning us that element. As you can see in the screen, we are getting 3 now. Now I'll do a small change. Instead of find, I'll use find index. Okay, so now still it is returning 3. What is the reason now? Okay, so let's see what is the index of this 3 element. 0 1 2 3. So this element which value is 3 is at position number 3. That is why we are getting still 3. Let's make it 25 24, and it is still giving us 3. Now let me quickly switch it to find method so as to show you what happened here just now. Okay, so the find method is giving us 24 now, but find index, instead of giving the actual value, it is giving us the index of the first element which matches this condition. So here what condition we have passed inside the callback function, we are checking if the element is greater than 0. Whichever element matches this condition, whichever first element in the whole array matches this condition, I just want the index of that particular element. Okay, so this is what find index does. So now, like most of you guys will ask me, like we have already learned about the index of method, right? So let me show you an example of index of as well. So what index of does, it basically checks for the element if the element is available or not. Okay, and then based on that it returns the index of it. So let's say I want to check the index of 24. Okay, so I'll pass 24 here simply. Now 24 is available, that is why it is giving us 3. And if it is not available, let's say 244. Okay, it is not available, then it will give us -1. So this is all this index of does. It have a limited scope. We can't do much in the index of. But if you guys have complex logic which you need to implement, to find the particular index of an element. Let's say you are getting an array of object. So let's quickly pick an array of object from here somewhere. Okay, let me go to the very top. Here we have 2 objects, and okay, let's just pick these 2 itself. Okay, I won't use this variable. I'll create a separate variable to use these. Okay, let test users. Okay, I'll paste the same thing here. So now let's just quickly check what we are getting in the test users. So right now we are getting Jason Momoa and Raunak Srivastava in the array, which are the array of objects basically. Okay, so let's try to find out Jason Momoa. So um, let's just try to access the name of this one. Okay, and what was the name? Let me just quickly check it. It's Jason Momoa. Let me just copy it. So we are not even getting any idea like how we are going to check it, right? So it will still give us -1. But with the find index method, what we can do, we can simply, okay, so I was using the wrong array. Let me just quickly create a new one here. Okay, LG, yeah. So I'll use this test user dot index of. Okay, if I want to find the index of the element which is an object, and I want to check whether this name is available or not, how I can do that? There is no way of doing that thing in index of, right? But in case of find index, we can actually do that. We can write our complex logic to find our respective elements index. Okay, so if I want to find the index of JSON object, what I will do, let me show you. Okay, so instead of this, I'll use find index. Okay, and here I will pass a callback function now. Okay, so let's say user, and then user dot, I think it must be name. If it matches to this name Jason Momoa, then just give me the index of that element. And in this case, the find index is working pretty fine. If you can see, we are getting the index of the element which is matching this condition. Okay, so let's just copy these two multiple times. Okay, so now we have 6 objects, and then let me just create another object quickly, which will be almost similar. Okay, JSON2, and it will be similar to JSON. Okay, but there will be few differences. Like in JSON, we have some password at 123 to do's list. So with this one, let's add one more key called test. Okay, test true. I know this one is not a practical key, but for sake of example, we are just adding it. Okay, now let's just add it right after this Jason Momoa. Okay, right after this JSON. See, right now both the objects have the same name. Okay, JSON object will also have the Jason Momoa. JSON2 also will have the Jason Momoa. So now let's see which index we will get here. And again, we have duplicate objects in multiple indexes stored in the array test users. Okay, so now if you notice in the find index method, for Jason Momoa, we are still getting the index number 1. That means the first element which is matching this particular index, the find index will return the index of that element. Okay, so in our case, it iterated through the array. It checked the first element, it is not matching the condition. It checked the second element. Here itself, it got the object which is satisfying this condition, so it returned the index of this element. So it never checked back in the rest of the array. So let me quickly remove it, and then you will see we are still getting 1 because this JSON2 is here, right, with the same name. So let me write another Raunak here. Okay, now we are getting index number 2, 0, 1, 2. So this is what find index does. Okay, and one more thing I wanted to tell you guys, like in the find method, we have the callback function where we can pass the current element. Along with this, we can pass the index and the complete array, right? So here also we can pass the index and the complete array, and same thing we can do in the find index as well. But I never found any use case where we have to use the like index and the current element in the find index method, because this element itself is returning the index. So far I never found any use case, but in case you find any use case, then you can make use of it, because here in the find index method also we have these three parameters available. Okay, like the current element, and then we can pass the index ind, let's say, and then we can pass the complete array. Okay, so like this. Let me quickly show you these two as well. So for that I need to use curly braces, obviously, because now this is a multiple line thing. I need to use the return keyword as well. And now let's just move it out of the console log. Okay, and let's just cut it, paste it here, and index and array. So it will tell us like what we are getting in each iteration, right? So it clearly says like it is iterating through each and every element. So that's why we are getting each index, right? And on each index we are getting all the elements. That means in simple words we are getting the array of elements. Okay, so these are also the things which are available in the find index method. And one more thing guys, like this find index and find method were introduced in ES6. So that means it won't work in the what we can say like super old browsers. But for that also we will figure out in one of the future lectures like how we can make them work in the old browsers, right? So yeah, this is it for this lecture. See you in the next one.